Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining, and thank you, Andrew. You speak so eloquently, so it's always good to get you to read out the agenda. I'm unfortunately can't stick around for the entire meeting today, but I will just drop my email address in the chat before I dash off in case anyone has any questions about what I'm about to talk about, and then you can just contact me directly. So in effect, I've been looking after the marketing and comms. You may have heard me give updates before with regards to the new website. Well, in the next week or so, what we'll be doing is restricting access to a significant amount of the website for members only. So that's members who are fully paid up, which means you will have to log in to be able to view opportunities, presentations from past events, etc. Once you're in the login area, from there, we've created it so you can update your member profiles. So you can give a whole new profile about who you are as members and new filters for sort of the skills and sector groups that you're in. You'll be able to upload your own company news and any events that you want to publicise across the entire website. So that's for non-members as well. We've also created a membership forum, so you can post if you've got any opportunities or job opportunities or just information you want to share across the membership. You can share it on there and other members can comment, etc. So if you're in desperate need of some fabrication really quickly, you can just stick it on there instead of having to go through formal tender processes and LinkedIn and everything else. So we're hoping it'll be exciting and will work well, and we're just troubleshooting at the minute, so fingers crossed by the time you guys get into it, everything will run smoothly. If you do have any feedback with regards to what we've created, obviously you can use the feedback button on the website. You can email me directly, you can email Hazel directly, and I've already posted in the member forum, so you can also just comment on that. As I said, this is access for paid members only, so if you've not paid your membership, you won't be able to get access to it. If you're an extra person as part of a paid member, so you're a second or third or fourth user, your main user will be able to set you up a login account via their own login. I mean, again, if you've got any problems with that, then obviously you can contact Hazel. He'll be there as the support for it all, but should all be fairly self-explanatory. So that's that really. It's just to let you know that's coming, and we will send an email out the day it goes live, so you won't suddenly go on to look at your opportunities and not be able to get in. You'll get a warning in the morning it goes live, and as I say, the logins that you use for it is this. It's the same ones you've already used for renewing your membership, and if you've forgotten your passwords or anything, you can sort that all out online anyway. So so that's coming soon. Hope you like it. If you've not paid your membership, you won't get access, so I suggest you pay. If you're having any problems with that, or you've not joined for any reason, or you've got any issues around renewing online, please just contact Hazel so we can get it sorted out, so you don't have any sort of interim where you can't access elements of the website. So that's all I really have to update with regards to the website today, which means I believe I'm handing over to Ellie Jones from Allerdale Council to talk about business tools.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, and thanks Hazel and Andrew as well. Let me just share my screen. There we go, brilliant. So thank you very much for letting me speak today. My name's Ellie. I'm the Business Services Coordinator at Allerdale Borough Council. My main role at the council is to ensure that businesses are aware of the support and advice that the council can offer, in particular sort of business facing and regulatory services. And today I just wanted to outline how Allerdale have been supporting their businesses in the last year, and let you know about some of the sponsorship opportunities and initiatives that you can get involved with in the year to come. So first of all, I just wanted to start off with a quick table here with our business grants that we've been offering, as have every other local authority in the county and across the country. As you can see, as of the 26th of March this year, we've paid out nearly 63 million to our businesses. The Restart grant has now come into force on the 1st of April, and information is on our website, which is just at the bottom there, and also our social media. We have redeployed colleagues to actually administer these grants alongside their day-to-day responsibilities, and we have had great feedback about them as well as our website. We took a lot of time to sort of put together a flow chart as well as sort of information in terms of what criteria were for each grant and how you could apply. And like I said, we just had great feedback from ease of applying, but also how we'd sort of presented that to the businesses. So when I first started back in October, I was sort of the dedicated person for business support. And my first task was to look at how we engage with businesses, how we communicated with them, and get them to hear about what we can offer. I just noted down a couple of the things that I did there. So we started a weekly business focused bulletin that goes out every Monday. At the end of this, I can share the link to that should you want to sign up for that. We've got just over 2,000 businesses that have now signed up to that. And it's very important information internally and externally from national bodies, government, but other organisations as well. We do like to document good news stories and any sort of signposting to events and webinars from, again, internal or external businesses. We've also done likewise with our Allerdale Business Community Facebook page. That is a private closed group, so you need to answer a couple of questions. You must be a business in Allerdale, as well as a couple sort of behaviour questions as well. And again, it's just an instant way of sharing that information that we think is best for you. Our corporate website, although it's obviously been here years before I was, we just wanted to have a relook at the pages, ensure that they were giving the information in the best way possible. Again, my example of the grants page, as well as our reopening guidance as well. And lastly, street market traders, obviously incredibly important when they didn't have a physical presence in our streets, as they don't have sort of bricks and mortar shops to sort of advertise and promote themselves. We ensured that they were on our corporate website page. We did a little interview with ITV Border about them. And just before Christmas, we did a Made in Allerdale Christmas event where for a week businesses were promoted by us throughout all our social media, and we had about 3,000 page views on our Visit Allerdale website, which I'll come on to talk about a little bit later. And we also then had our business directory. So the idea of this was sort of threefold, really. We wanted to give businesses featured an online presence. So even if they didn't have a website, we wanted to promote their services. 2, we hope that it also encouraged businesses to collaborate, use local services themselves, and also, of course, in turn, supporting the local economy. And lastly, as it sits on our visitor-facing website, it means that it can also be used as a sort of itinerary or a search system for visitors and, of course, residents to sort of plan their holidays, know where to eat, shop, visit, and buy local. And as you can see there, hopefully you can see it's quite small writing, but we cover a huge range of business sectors, so not just sort of visitor economy, but also manufacturing, transport, and retail, and again our street markets there as well. Moving on to our business groups, so these forums have been created and are very successful in Cockermouth and Keswick. A mayor report was also done just before the pandemic hit last year, and recently we've started them in Wigton and Workington and Silloth to ensure that all our 7 towns are included. Now, as a Spraitry is very small, they can either sit with Wigton or Silloth, so we haven't missed those out. We know that's only 6. But once established, the new groups are completely independent of the council. They're chaired by someone within the local business community and is voted for by the members. They then focus on representing concerns of the local firms, providing a networking forum, developing joint initiatives, and of course supporting the recovery of COVID-19 as a sort of front and foremost project. Also working with other organisations, so I sit on all of those groups. However, I will only be feeding back on the things that the council have done that may help them. Some really great discussions already emerging from these groups. They've been creating their own websites, their own logos, and really just enhancing their own community. Allerdale have also given £1,000 to each of the groups to start their projects off. So we look forward to sort of seeing them. And again, if anyone on this call would like to join, my email address will be available at the end. So please do get in touch with that. Our business website, We've got a new business website, hopefully launching at the end of April. This really came out of the fact that our corporate website is maybe a little confusing because obviously it's for residents as well. There's a lot of information on there. This will really be a one-stop shop for business information. It will be simple and easily navigated, where you should hopefully be able to find your answer, or at least the direction to go in within 3 clicks there. We'll have lots of other pages, including our regulatory services, events and training, signposting, information on our business groups, vacancies, and commercial property pages as well. So hoping it really is a sort of hub for Allerdale businesses. I just noted there as well, we've got an Invest in Allerdale page, which will have facts and stats about the livability of Allerdale. And we're also gathering case studies from long-term successful businesses to showcase why it'd be great to do business here. So I hope it's not only a practical and accessible website, but for our businesses, but also a great starting point for potential inward investors or local entrepreneurs and business talent. Okay, we've got the Shop Local campaign as well. We took advantage of the Reopening High Street Safely Fund, which was given by the government. We've tried to get a little bit creative to sort of make it a bit eye-catching for both residents and businesses. To make sure we fulfilled the criteria for this fund, we had to do a customer-facing campaign and a business-facing campaign. So for customers, we're doing an animated video with a local company in Carlisle, promoting all 7 towns of Allerdale and how the story of shopping local really does benefit everyone. And our business-facing campaign are promotional infographics about our business support, which is obviously what I'm here to speak about today. I won't go through them as we're covering them all in this session, but it really was just to take advantage of that money, be creative, and really sort of keep continuing that message of shopping local. Okay, so we've got Better Business for All. We're really pleased to be involved with this and coordinating Cumbria's Better Business for All group. It's a little tricky to get your head around, so apologies for lots of the wordiness here, but it's basically a partnership which aims to enhance relationships between businesses and local authority regulators for mutual benefit. So in the most simplistic terms, a compliant business equals economic growth. So this group includes local authorities and business support networks like the Lappin Growth Hub, and we really support and guide businesses on how to comply, but also when they need to seek advice, and know that we're here to help and not punish. So we collaboratively create and deliver projects, informing businesses of the rules and regulations in a business-friendly way. Currently, the group is made up of Copeland, Carlisle, County Council, as well as the Growth Hub and the LEP. I've also just recently signed up Cumbria Fire Service and FSB and have meetings with the other 3 local authorities as well. Our first co-organised event is actually in about half an hour, which is why I need to scoot off at the end of this presentation. But we also have a larger project coming up at the end of May. So this scheme not only supports our businesses, but also our regulatory services, and in the long run will support local economy, economic growth, and makes the local area a better place to do business, which I think we can all agree is obviously the main aim. And just finally, my colleague Joe Broomfield asked me just to go through a couple of our tourism and sponsorship opportunities this year. So Residents Week is 2nd to the 10th of October. This is a whole county initiative intended to extend the sort of touristy season and get residents back into local shops and spending. So participating businesses, residents will go into there, they'll purchase something over £10, they'll get a little code, they put it into our website, and they could be in with the chance of winning a really amazing prize. There's every business that takes part needs to offer a prize, and that's the only kind of thing that you need to submit there. It's supported by all the local authorities in the county, and therefore there's lots of exposure available for that one. We are looking for a headline sponsor, so again, if anyone is interested in that, then please do get in touch. Festivals and events this year, fingers crossed. We've obviously got Taste Cumbria, which people will be familiar of in Cockermouth. We've got them in Workington, Maryport and Wigton this year. We've also got Scilla Cycling Festival, which will really focus on health and well-being and families, and really Scilla as a cycling destination. Again, we've got stand and promotional sponsorship opportunities, should anyone think that's kind of up their street. And then just finally, Perfect Day in Allerdale. If people weren't familiar, this was a countrywide competition. You could write about what your perfect day in Allerdale would be, and you're in with a chance of winning. Actually, first place is actually coming to do all those activities, but you also have placed prizes as well. And finally, just to announce that our Allenby to Scilla cycle path is now well and truly open. I hope the weather is as lovely as it is on that right-hand picture. This joins Maryport and Allenby Cycleway and is part of the Hadrian Cycleway on the National Cycleway Network. Part of our drive to boost tourism across the West Coast and really promote a healthy, active lifestyle, but also, of course, reduces carbon emissions by either cycling or walking on these paths. Recent research found that cycling tourism is worth about 39 million per year, and Allerdale has a huge amount of these cycleways, and this is obviously just another great addition. So thank you very much. I hope I didn't storm through that too quickly, but obviously any questions, please do feel free to ask.
Okay, thanks very much, Ellie. I haven't got any questions that have come through in the chat. However, I'll ask one of my own. You talked about wins and success stories. Is that something that businesses can share with you to get included in the newsletter and the Facebook group? Is that something you would promote?
Yeah, please do. Obviously, we find them from all different sources, mainly from other news outlets, but on Facebook, or if I know that business, if I've been dealing with something, then absolutely. So anything from I know there's a local business owner doing a podcast recently. There's someone opening a new gallery in Cockermouth. There's a community pub that's just been saved in Marlborough. So any kind of lovely news stories like that. We intended it just to be a bit of a breakup of all the COVID news, basically, on the newsletter. So it was nice just to have those in there and just generally know about those people and what they were doing. So yeah, please do.
And I presume that would clearly take precedence if you're in Allerdale, or at least you're going to benefit Allerdale.
Yes, it would. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't not put it in if it was from another part of the county, but it would be good if it linked in with Allerdale somehow.
Okay, so there's a great opportunity as businesses are reopening and perhaps getting started up again. Share your success stories. There's bound to be some in there somewhere. I know it's been very challenging for lots of companies, lots of businesses, but clearly some businesses recruited, others have had to adapt their business models and so-called pivot to new ways of working. So if you have had successes with that, however small, then there's an opportunity to share that with Ellie and perhaps get some wider promotion out of that, absolutely free of charge, I suspect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great stuff. Okay, last call really for any questions, because Ellie needs to go in the next few minutes. Nothing's popped up in the chat, but final call if anybody does have any questions. Not seeing anything come through. So I think, Ellie, that covers everything. So thanks very much for joining us this morning. Thank you for sharing your slides and telling people about the opportunities to get involved. Very much appreciated.
Thank you. I should put my email address in the chat box if anyone wants it. But thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. So Ellie's details will be in the chat. They'll also be posted onto the website after today's meeting. So there it is. I can see it's just appeared. So do take the opportunity to perhaps get a bit of press or PR coverage. Every little helps, someone once said. So we will move on to our next speaker, and that is Joe Lappin from Cumbria LEP. And Joe, you're going to be talking about the impact of EU transition. And again, you're going to share some slides. So I shall hand across to you, Joe, when you're ready.
Thank you. And good morning, everyone. If you can just give me 1 minute to get my slides up. Right, on that basis, we'll start again. Good morning, everyone. Absolutely delighted to join you. And I think the reality in terms of the impact of EU transition is we are still very much in the early days. The end of the transition period, as you know, was the 31st of December. And what we found in the LEP is that many people had taken preemptive action. So we saw lots of stockpiling of things that would be imported to businesses. We saw lots of businesses actually getting their exports out of the way before the end of the transition period. So I think where we are at this point in time is still very much in the assessment phase as to how things are going. And if we are sort of looking at what happened at the end of last financial year, last calendar year, you recognise that the trade and cooperation agreement was agreed literally at 5 to midnight, just before the 31st of December. And for our businesses, that was a huge sigh of relief, because for business income, tariffs would have been extremely difficult. There was also a serious issue if we'd not signed the trade and cooperation agreement regarding the movement of goods to Europe. In the UK, we would probably have had only 10% of the vehicles that we needed to continue with trade levels as they are in normal business times. So the first thing that we did at the LEP was immediately we'd agreed the trade and cooperation agreement. We actually rerun our impact assessment. That had been done twice previously. Firstly, when we were looking at forecasters saying that there was a very real chance that there would be a no-deal Brexit. And what that did was assess which parts of our economy were most vulnerable to no deal. When government then produced its own proposal to the EU on tariffs, we rerun the impact assessment again. And what that identified was that the proposal was much more benign to Cumbrian businesses. So we then, immediately after the trade and cooperation agreement had been sealed in early January, got our economists to do a further impact assessment. And what that showed for Cumbria is that none of our sectors were seriously at red risk. And that was very, very different to the assessment that we did when we were looking at a no-deal position. So these are very busy, but that's because we're very happy for Hazel and Andrew to share these after the meeting. So when we looked at sectoral impacts, again, after the TCA had been signed, we found that for the tourism sector, the high risk had moved to medium to high risk. And the main risk for the tourism sector was the level of reliance on migrant workers from the EU. So some of our businesses have 70% of their staff that come from the EU. I think the other thing, the agreement on settlement scheme was making a huge difference. So 5 million people currently have applied for settlement status or have pre-settlement status. So our view was that we wasn't going to see any significant staffing issues for the sector. And being really honest, as already talked about by the previous speaker, our visitor economy is one of the sectors that have been significantly impacted by COVID. And that was their biggest concern at that point in time. However, where we are now is we actually feel the risk for the tourism and visitor sector is escalating, because what we found is that a number of EU workers returned during lockdown and are now currently basically trapped and are struggling to be able to return to the UK. So they've been furloughed in the jobs, they travelled home when they could travel, and as you know, there are serious travel restrictions at this point in time. So we feel that this, particularly going into summer, is going to be an escalating risk. If we turn to our food and farming sector, they were facing significant tariffs. And as you know, we are one of the biggest lamb producers in the country, if not the biggest. The tariffs that farmers were looking at for exporting lambs to Europe, which is their biggest market, was massive. It was one of the highest tariffs for any product. Clearly, the move away from tariffs has made a significant difference. But what has changed is the level of checks and regulation that the farming community now need to go through. At this point in time, it's fair to say our farming sector is having a bit of a sweet spot. Prices are very high, trade is really good, but we're very conscious that there are lots of changes on the horizon for our farming community. The end of CAP, we've got new agricultural bill, we've got new environmental bill. So this is clearly a sector that we really do need to monitor quite closely. We thought that the manufacturing sector was going to be medium to low in terms of impact, because the sort of biggest concerns around tariffs had been offset. However, what we're finding more latterly is that many of our manufacturing businesses are facing significant challenges in trading with Europe, and that's something we'll come to as we go through the presentation. Transport, clearly there were significant issues, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the availability of permits, if they had been implemented, with 90% of our hauliers having a very difficult time in securing access to Europe. And finally, health and social care is, again, a sector we were concerned about on the availability of labour. And again, we're already seeing issues escalating in that sector around labour force availability. So moving on, I'm going to sort of spend a minute or two on the movement of goods. And as I said at the outset, the immediate impact was offset because of stockpiling. January trading is tending to be flatter than other parts of the year. So it was only in mid-February that we saw an escalation of the issues. And where we are as of today is that trade levels are still diminished. There are fewer goods moving. Trade is picking up, but still about 80% of the norm. There are delays. These are experienced due to the increased paperwork requirements, additional border checks, etc. So things are not moving as quickly as they used to be. Northern Ireland is proving extremely problematic in terms of both costs and delays. Equally, there are issues in trading with Southern Ireland. And I think what we found in the LEP is this really, in Cumbria, only seemed to be an issue mid-February. I presented to the House of Lords EU Goods Subcommittee on behalf of all of the LEPs nationally. And it was clear that in some areas, colleagues in Liverpool were flagging issues with trading with Northern Ireland, basically from January onwards. So one of the things we are trying to understand is why did it become an issue in Cumbria slightly later than in other areas? The other thing that's happened for hauliers is they face increased risk. Many of them decided they didn't want to take groupage loads, which is basically a number of smaller consignments from different organisations, because if one batch is wrong, the whole load is compromised and the haulier is liable for the abortive costs. Hazardous loads have become extremely difficult to move because there are now licensing requirements not only in every country that the load is passing through, but in Germany, for example, it's every region. And one of our businesses that deals with hazardous loads has basically suspended activity because it's just so complex. And again, a big and escalating issue is around labour availability. Lots of the drivers on the UK roads are actually from Eastern Europe. And what they're finding is that Eastern European drivers are less interested in coming to the UK because they're no longer guaranteed a backload. So most drivers want to bring something here and go back with something. The reduction in trade means that's not happening. And there is now a real concern around labour availability in this area. So what are businesses telling us about the challenges? And the main one that we've had real issues and concerns about is rules of origin. And rules of origin is basically, where do your particular component parts come from? How do you trace them? Some of the businesses that we're speaking to have 50,000 components. So it's a mammoth task in doing that. And it's really challenging some of the most well-organised, savvy exporting businesses that we've got. Some of our export champions are struggling with this, and their job is to promote export to others. That is proving difficult, both paying and reclaiming. Businesses, particularly smaller businesses, are finding it very difficult to manage the paperwork. And what we've found with some of the smaller businesses, they're not only getting to grips with the export paperwork, but the businesses they're trading with in Europe are asking them to complete import paperwork as well. So it really is a double whammy for them. We've seen a significant increase in costs. And that's not only the cost of trading with Europe. When our businesses are looking at alternative markets, they're finding the cost of transport and shipment to areas outside of the EU has grown massively. And when I say massively, that's not an exaggeration. It's hundreds of % increase in costs. The supply chain is delayed and choice has reduced significantly. So many businesses are looking at changing the supply chain, which if they can do that in the UK is fabulous. And one of the things that we want to help businesses to do is rewire supply chains. And there clearly are finally specific sectoral impacts. For instance, you'll have probably picked up in TV coverage, the shellfish export market has absolutely collapsed. So really, really difficult for some sectors to trade effectively with Europe going forward. So I think what I'd like to say is it's not all doom and gloom. There are people who are navigating the way around these issues, already mentioned briefly new supply chains, looking at how you shore up your business with a more localized set of arrangements. So what did we do about it? The first thing is we set up a rapid response team. BECBC very kindly funded a programme to provide immediate transition support. That team operated from December 2020 to the 31st of March 2021. Ideally, and this is a personal view, it would have been far better if that team had probably carried on till June, because the issues for many businesses are still becoming apparent. We offered support to 4,000 businesses, of which over 1,500 of those businesses wanted to have either a short, sharp advisory engagement or for some longer term and ongoing support. And I should mention, I see Peter Fleming's here, and Peter was one of the people who very kindly joined that team and helped us navigate in our businesses to navigate some of these issues. So going forward, clearly we're disappointed that the team didn't last a bit longer, but this will be taken forward directly by CLEP. And if anybody would like advice on anything to do, not only with trading with Europe and EU transition, but wider trading opportunities, very much welcome them to contact our info @ and we will make sure that absolutely the right person is available to give them the advice and the support that they need. So that's it from me, Andrew, by way of an overview. As I say, it's still early days. Many businesses are getting to grips with operating in a new way. Many had postponed the inevitable by stockpiling, planning ahead, but now I think the last 6-8 weeks, people are starting to recognise what the changes are and probably need a bit of help to navigate some of those. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Jo. Excuse me. Well, it's very quiet in the chat room, but we have got a question which has come in from Peter Fleming. the aforementioned Peter Fleming. So Peter, do you want to put that question directly to Joe?
Hi, John. Thanks for the mention. Yeah, just a quick question in respect to BECBC members. Many of the members are sort of professional services or specialist consultancy. Has there been any news yet on what's happening with services in respect to trading with the EU? I know there was talk that it was being discussed, but has there been any more since we left the programme, or is there any updates in that area?
Not in, as you left the programme 7 days ago, Peter, not quite. No, services is one of those things that have still to be resolved. And whilst it matters to a important part of our business community, it is clearly a significant issue for some parts of the country that are very, very heavily reliant on the service sector. So at this point in time, Peter, there's nothing new that's emerged since you were with us a week ago, but clearly we'll make sure that anything that does emerge is shared with everybody.
Yeah, and it'd be great to have that linkage going forward that we can share with the members as well. So thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Joe, I just wondered, is there any, I mean, you talked about sector impact. Is there any specific support programs or grants that people can access through the Cumbria LEP?
There is, Andrew. And I think, my advice would be anybody that's interested in advice and support, really go to that info at. We will very, very quickly explore with the business all of the support that's available, because we could do lots of name checking. And I think the feedback from our business community at the minute is they actually want navigation and advice through that, because there has been so many, we had a session with our business and economic response and recovery group last week to talk about skills support. I think it's fair to say members were overwhelmed when we got to, 15 initiatives and counting, and there's been others announced since then. So there is direct support available. Some of it's relatively low level, 2,000 to give advice on specific trade advice support. But what we would do is look specifically at the needs of the business, do an assessment, and make sure that all of the things that are relevant to that business, they receive that advice and support.
Okay, no, that's great. So it sounds like plenty of options available, just get in touch directly. So we've got a couple of questions that have come in. Go to Tracy Todd and then come to John Grainger. But Tracy, you have a question.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for the update. Just wondering, obviously with the European workers being stuck abroad, what's happening with the skill shortages and how are you going to resolve that in the county?
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. This is something we have a visitor economy group that is specifically looking at this as an issue. The feedback that we've had is that this is an escalating concern. They don't think it's a concern immediately because clearly visitor economy is not going to open until May. What we're seeing is a combination of things happening. First one is that some of our visitor economy businesses are rethinking their business model. So a sense of a movement away from serviced accommodation, because people are going to probably for the foreseeable be operating in bubbles, wanting to avoid high footfall locations. So some are deciding that they're moving to a non-serviced offer to also minimise the demand on staff resource. Clearly, a really important thing that we do need to do is make sure that those that have been sadly affected by unemployment as a result of COVID are being very, very quickly redeployed. So we're working with the sector to say what kind of initiatives can we very quickly implement to get those that are currently out of work back into employment in the sector. I think the other thing that we need to do is also make sure that younger people see the visitor economy as an attractive employment destination. And I think sadly, because of the experience in the last 12 months, the sector sees that as much more difficult than it was. What sort of business leaders are saying to me is, if you're a young person and you see that we've been more or less closed continuously for a year, are you going to see that as a good career option? And that whenever we go into lockdown, it's our sector that closes first. So there's sort of a sense that we need to resell the visitor economy as a destination of choice in terms of careers. And we also need to work with the sector to make employment as attractive as possible. Because one of the things that's vexed us for some time pre-COVID is that we have areas of high unemployment, but the accessibility of the visitor economy employment opportunities isn't strong. So if we look across Cumbria, we've got West Cumbria, Borough and parts of Carlisle that are our longer term unemployment hotspots. Those individuals would really struggle to access opportunities in the Lake District unless there was transport or there was accommodation. So starting to how do we make that really coordinated offer so that people can move into the vacancies. And, you know, clearly also trying to find a way for those that want to come back, that have been trapped and have got settlement or pre-settlement status to be able to return. So lots of different things that we need to be working with the sector to put into place, Tracy.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you, Jo.
Thanks very much, Jo and Tracy. John Grainger, Executive Director of the cluster, you were going to just join the conversation briefly.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. It was just to say, Jo, thank you on behalf of the members for the presentation you've given this morning. Sometimes you're surprised by the fact that nobody has any comeback questions, and it's because you actually give such a comprehensive report on the subject matter. I'm sure it wasn't what you signed up for originally when you came in as the LEP Chief Executive, but we're lucky to have you on board here. And you'll know from the meetings that I attend more or less weekly that there's a lot of competence within the recovery group from the private sector and the public sector in Cumbria. And it's been extraordinary to see everybody pulling together in this situation. As we know that by sector, things have been quite difficult. And obviously our thoughts are particularly with those, and including some of our members who are working in tourism, hospitality and so forth. Those in nuclear, construction, perhaps not quite so badly affected, but this pandemic has affected us all. And just want to say on behalf of members of the business cluster to thank you and your team who provided an awful lot of very comprehensive information updated that we put on our website so people can access it, for all the hard work that you've done and will continue to do in the future as we come out of this pandemic and get on the road to recovery.
Well, John, thank you. That's lovely. And can I say thank you to you, because you are absolutely one of the stalwarts of Berg. And I was reflecting this morning, I was at a national meeting with LEP colleagues. If we think about Berg in Cumbria, it's decidedly punched above its weight. Much of the feedback that we've provided in terms of what do we need for our business community has genuinely translated into policy and investment by government. So it's done a fabulous job, and our most recent one was pressing for absolute LFT tests for people at home. And as of last week, this week, we've moved to that. And that's one very simple example where the business community said this is nonsensical. How can children be able to test themselves, but adults working in businesses can't? And there's lots and lots of examples. So I'm hugely appreciative of our business community for their commitment to our public sector and our voluntary sector partners who have tipped up more or less every week. And even, John, as you know, when I try to make the meetings fortnightly, there's normally a request for a special meeting in significant numbers, and have done that for the past year. So we are massively grateful. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, both of you, particularly Jo, for giving your time and sharing your presentation this morning and taking questions. Very much appreciated. So many thanks. So next up on today's agenda, we're going into a 2x3 session, 2 sessions, 3 minutes each. So the stakes are up, the stopwatch will come out. And today's 3x3 presenters are Nigel Stafford from TNS Engineering, but we're going to start with Mark Waters from BidBase. So Mark, you have some slides. In fact, you both got slides, so you can be thinking about getting those slides at the ready. And Hazel will be counting down with the 3-minute clock today. Don't forget, you will be cut off after 3 minutes. Nothing personal, but it's just how the 3x3 in this section works, and it makes sure that everyone has the same opportunity to say something about their business. So Hazel, are you ready with your countdown clock?
I'm ready. Mark, are you ready?
Yeah, can you see the slides?
Slides are there. Yep.
Absolutely.
So
start when you're ready, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, morning everyone. My name is Mark Waters. I'm the MD of the BidBase. We're a bid support consultancy based in Cockermouth, and we provide bid support services to all shapes and size of company in all sectors. Our current customers range from local SMEs all the way up to global engineering organisations in the UK and beyond. Just change the slide. So we help our customers in 2 ways. The first one is we help take the strain. We help do the heavy lifting, and we help them to produce and write their bids. The second way we help customers is to help them continually improve and get better at bidding, so they become more self-sufficient. And the type of things we can help with are help customers to produce bid strategies and win themes. We can help them write the bids and edit them. Our graphic designers can help bring the bids to life with logos, graphics, infographics, things like that. We can help to produce bid support material, such as CV, templates, case studies, PowerPoint presentations, infographics. We carry out bid training to our customer teams, and we can help produce internal bid procedures for our customers as well. We also carry out bid reviews as and when required. And we also have our own software application called BidFlow. So BidFlow is a cloud-based bid management system with unlimited users. It's subscription-based. It allows remote bid teams to collaborate using a single source of data, a single source of information. And it has workflows and tools to help customers produce compelling and competitive bids. Everything's in one place, so there's no need to go out to other platforms. And it's very bid specific. It's not like G Drive or SharePoint, which are really just data storage tools. This actually helps produce compelling bid responses. And it's suitable for all sizes of company, from micro SMEs all the way up to global organizations. We also provide additional services to help our customers showcase their capability. So we offer drone aerial videos and photography, which can be used in bids, case studies, advertising, marketing materials. But sometimes the customers don't actually know where to start looking at how to improve their bidding. So we offer a health check, a bidding health check, where we'll come in, we'll work with your team to review previous bids, any supporting information you have, procedures, processes, and templates. We'll have discussions with your team, and then we'll produce a report of our findings with recommendations and an action plan. We've actually got a special offer at the moment where we'll offer a 20% discount to business cluster members on that. So that's the BidBase. Yeah, please get in touch. Thank you. There's the contact details. Thanks.
Brilliant. Actually, the time stopped about half a second before you gave the offer to members, but I thought that was worth getting in. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Hazel.
No problem. Thank you very much for that. And next 3x3 will be Nigel. Okay, Nigel's preparing his slides at the moment. That's brilliant. You're in the right view now, Nigel. So when you're ready, you can start for your 3 minutes.
No problem. My name's Nigel Stafford. I'm one of the directors of TNS Engineering. Formed in September 2019, we're a micro company. I've got 40 years experience as a manufacturing engineer. My wife, who's my business partner, has a degree in business management and web design. We're presently working with a small group of companies based in Sheffield, providing business development, consultancy, project management, business support, PQQ completion, ITT completion. As it says, a focused approach to customer support, basically. We look at the supply chain as bringing the group of companies together to give an integrated turnkey solution. So the group can all contribute to these attributes there that you can see on the supply chain integration. We bring that together either as part or in full to give a full turnkey supply. The cluster of groups there, the cloud shows the companies that are involved regards design, manufacture, installation, along with ourselves, and the key areas that we get involved in to bring that supply chain integration together. And looking there, you can see the companies. We've got a site service business that we support, CTL, a fabrication and manufacturing company. Daedalus get involved in the design, and we introduce them to new customers, and we do the introductions, and obviously we get involved in the project management and the tender bids as well. So it gives us that supply chain integration, either part of or in full, from cradle to grave regards what we manage at our side. Obviously, we need to be aware and fully conversant with key areas in regards to the technical side of bids and speaking to customers, quality management system 9001, 2015. Also, fusion welding, CE marking, and materials, including material segregation, because it's heavily based around fabrication and site fabrication. And then there's health and safety. It's a site-based approach to manufacturing, but we have nuclear triple bar training. So the sectors that we're involved in, obviously it's turnkey, traditional power and nuclear decommissioning, and we're looking at new build and renewable. We do a lot of work on site with energy from waste plants, and we do site installation. So what we like to think of ourselves is we're structured, cost effective to business development for SMEs. So we offer a service, but a cost effective service that covers their business development needs, sales needs, and also customer introduction needs for a group of companies. And at the moment, it's going quite well. During COVID, we've still managed to get a first nuclear decommissioning project placed with one of the companies. There's my details. Anybody has any questions, please give me a shout.
Well, Nigel, you beat the egg timer by a few seconds.
I am
there.
now going to log on to William Hill and claim my winnings for that bet that my wife put on to say I couldn't do this in 3 minutes. But thank you all for your time.
I'll put confirmation in an email for you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the 3x3s today. I'll hand back to Andrew for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mark and Nigel and Hazel, for the egg timer. I'm going to move straight on to Vicky Ritson, who's going to provide a link update, Vicky, from Inspira. And I put your slides up on screen now for you, Vicky.
Thanks, Andrew. Good morning, everybody. I think we'll crack on to the next slide right away, Andrew, if that's okay. So we've got our first quarter as the link under our belt now, which has been great. And I think it's fair to say that we have extended the Business and Schools Collaboration Programme county-wide with almost 5,000 students engaged in the last quarter, which, given that they didn't return to school until the 8th of March, I think we've not done too shabbily there. And we've spoken to, across the county, over 100 new businesses who have pledged support. And if they haven't supported this quarter, I know that we'll be drawing on their support this coming quarter as we run into the summer holidays. I've included a couple of quotes there just to give you a snapshot of what's happened over the last quarter. We did a transition series for Year 11s who are obviously thinking about their post-16 options currently. It ran over 4 weeks in the run-up to Easter and was a combination of live Q&A with business colleagues and videos and worksheets to work through in class or at home. And as you can see there, all of it was useful, was one of the quotes and feedback we got back from students, which was great. One I'm particularly proud of is we supported Cumbria Academy for Autism with their World of Work Week a few weeks ago. And there again is a quote, fantastic was how it was described. And the number one speaker actually during that week was a pastry chef from Lonclume, which I have to thank Hazel for. Hazel referred me on to that Michelin star restaurant, and David, the pastry chef, wowed them all with his pastry creation, so much so that we had a few students doing afternoon teas the weekend after, which was really good. And I think it has inspired at least I know a couple of students to look at this as a career option. So it's doing what we set out to do, which is great. Could I have the next slide, please, Andrew? So moving on to what we're looking for, what summer term is like. We're still waiting on some dates to be firmed up. Teachers have to do their assessments, student assessments, and mock exams still have to take place. But we do have some stuff planned in already, and we would welcome as much support as we can get. We're keen to work with sixth formers, particularly year 12. It's a wobbly time for them at the moment. And so, we'd like to give them some support in terms of, how they're thinking about their future. And we've got a bit of an entrepreneurship focus going on as well. A lot of the work that we do in the link is with smaller sized businesses, and we do love the support we get from larger businesses, but it's good to get that variety. So we're doing a little bit on entrepreneurship moving forward. Our ever popular mock interviews will come back into play, and we've got dates for June and July coming forward on those. And we've also been asked to support it's sort of project work, so pulling together a few curriculum streams together into a project for students, which employers can top and tail, as I call it, really make an introduction, give students information that's relevant to the project, and then come along at the end and assess how they've done, give them a few pointers. So it's not setting work experience or anything like that, but it is supporting them to learn about the business environment with some small interactions at the beginning and end of their projects in class. So if anyone would be interested in helping with any of those areas, please do let me know. Contact details, as always, I'm in the usual place, the usual email address and mobile number. And again, my colleagues, my league colleagues in other areas are available too, should you want to engage with the school in your local area. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vicky. That's a great update. We'll move on straight away to John Grainger, who is next Executive Director of the cluster. Over to you, John.
Good morning, everybody, again, and thanks to everybody who's contributed this morning. It's been a really quite broad-ranging meeting and fantastic to see people on the call. So I hope you're enjoying this Easter week, chilly though it might be. I'm just going to give you a couple of updates, if I may do, about what's been going on within the cluster, just to keep you appraised of developments. I'm going to start with something which some of you might not have heard of before, which is called Swimming with the Big Fish. Certainly Kerry Doig, who's on the call, will know a lot about it because she, along with Dominic and John Berry, who's known to a lot of you, and others in the Tier 2 supply chain, have been working on for the best part of a year now to make sure that as many contracts flow down into the SME community as possible, particularly from contracts emanating from Sellafield. It's been a lot of good work done there, a lot of meetings held, and progress is there. So look out for contracts that are coming down. As Charlotte said right at the beginning of the meeting, we'll be closing down the openness of the contract gateway in the next few days. The grace period will be over and it'll just be for members. So I'm sure that those of you who are members will enjoy the benefit of that. We want to make sure that you get added value for your membership contribution. Alongside that, we've been working again for about a year now on something called Invest in Cumbria Alliance. It's perhaps not what it seems. It's actually a lot of work being done to maximise the amount of social value that comes into the area once an investment has been made. There are a lot of investments on the horizon potentially for West Cumbria, coming from public and private sector, so some government sponsored schemes and so forth, that really could be game changers as far as investment is concerned for our area. And once they do arrive, we want to make sure that we maximise as much as we possibly can the social value, social impact that Vicky's just been describing there in one form to a particular community. For too long, investments have been on the range of corporate social responsibility areas that have meant that big checks have been paid to communities, but things have been done to communities rather than working with them. So there's quite a cultural change we're trying to induce now that means that everybody will be working together to maximise the benefits for a community if an investment lands in a particular area. So watch this space. A couple of weeks ago, I went onto a virtual presentation from Devonport Dockyard, which is a long way from here. It's down at Plymouth, at the invitation of Paul Foster, who is the previous managing director or chief executive at Sellafield. A lot of you will remember. There's big opportunities down there. I've now received the slides from that presentation. And if anybody does want to see some of the procurement opportunities that are down there, and there are many, then please get in touch with me and I'll send the slides on to you. You'll see perhaps already I've put my contact address on the chat, but also it appears on the website along with Hazel's if you want to speak to either of us about any particular subject matter. Next month, I'll be doing a presentation to the oil and gas sector, a DCOM event that's going to be held in the week commencing 17th of May on behalf of the supply chain. So extolling the virtues of the supply chain to people in a different sector to what we used to be dealing with here. It's not just about Aberdeen, but it's about Great Yarmouth, it's about Teesside, it's about the northeast of England in general. So there's an opportunity there. So I'll be speaking on our behalf, the cluster members, at that particular meeting. Many of you have mentioned about when we can actually get back to physically meeting together. And we know that the roadmap which we're adhering to at the behest of the government is being strictly looked at the moment. But we will do as best as we possibly can to get some events back at Energous as soon as we are able. But in the intermediate time, if we get an opportunity, we will get a couple of open air events going, which will mean that we can actually meet more easily and with social distancing, it'll be achievable. The venue that we're looking at has got marquee space, so that means that that is actually a technically outdoor space as well. And we know that a lot of you will want to have that opportunity to meet each other again, to engage, to collaborate, social mixing as well. And just to let you know that we will be looking at that and seeing what we can achieve in the next month or two, because it would be great to see everybody physically again. But also, of course, we can't wait to get back to our base at Energous in the summer or early autumn. So the last thing I want to mention is the awards. You'll know that obviously we had to postpone the awards of last year, but we've got a date going forward now for May 2022. That might seem a little while off, but we will be announcing the awards programs, the categories and so forth, and the way that you can enter fairly soon now, because there'll be quite a long lead-in time before they hold the actual event in May next year. So look out for information coming from Hazel and on our website for the BECBC Cluster Awards 2022.